She balanced 3 scalding plates on one arm, the smell of cheap coffee and disinfectant burning her nose. But it was the icy stare from table 7 that made her stomach clench. Alexa was just 1 12-hour double shift away from total collapse. She was drowning in debt, fighting for her brother's next breath, and serving a diner full of people who looked right through her. She had no idea that in the shadowy corner booth, a man with the power to destroy cities was watching her every move, waiting for the one moment that would either ruin her or change her life forever. The 6 a.m. alarm was a shriek that ripped Alexa from a brief, restless sleep. For a fraction of a second, in the grey pre-dawn light of her cramped studio apartment, she was just a 24-year-old woman. Then, the world rushed in, and the weight settled back onto her shoulders. It was a physical presence, that weight. It lived in the stack of blood-red envelopes on her peeling kitchen counter. Past due. Final notice. It lived in the rhythmic, puff-puff hiss of the nebulizer machine from the curtained-off alcove where her younger brother, Leo, was asleep. Leo. He was the reason for everything. The reason she dropped out of design school, the reason she worked 60-hour weeks at the Midway Diner, the reason she hadn't bought herself a new pair of non-slip work shoes in over a year, even though the sole on her left one was separating. Leo had cystic fibrosis, a cruel, relentless disease that turned the simple act of breathing into a daily battle. The specialty medications, the pulmonologist visits, the late-night ER trips, they formed a mountain of debt so high, Alexa could no longer see the summit. "Alexa?" A small, hoarse voice called from the alcove. She forced a brightness into her own voice, a skill she'd perfected. "Hey, champ, I'm up, just getting my uniform. How's the breathing this morning?" "Okay," Leo coughed, a wet, rattling sound that tore at her heart. "Mr. Griggs schedule you for a double again?" "It's good money, Leo. It means we can get that new prescription, and I can pick up the good ice cream on the way home." She lied. The double shift wouldn't even cover the copay for the prescription. She'd be putting the rest on a credit card that was already screaming for mercy. She pulled on the diner's polyester uniform, a faded beige color that Alexa felt reflected her soul. She splashed cold water on her face, noting the dark circles under her eyes. She looked less like a 24-year-old and more like a faded photograph of one. "Be good," she whispered, kissing Leo's damp forehead. "Mrs. Petrov is coming by at noon to check on you. Call me if you need anything. Emergency line only, okay?" "I know, Alexa. Go, don't be late. Mr. Griggs will yell." He was right. Mr. Griggs, the diner's assistant manager, seemed to derive his life's singular joy from the suffering of his staff. He was a man with slicked back hair, a cheap tie always pulled too tight, and eyes that never looked at your face. They were always darting to the tip jar, or the clock, or, in Alexa's case, lingering a second too long on her waist. She grabbed a stale piece of toast and ran out into the frigid November air, her breath pluming in front of her. The bus ride was 20 minutes of swaying anxiety, reviewing the numbers in her head. The rent is due Friday. The electric bill is past due. The pharmacy called. She pushed through the glass door of the Midway Diner at 6:58 a.m. The smell of frying bacon and old coffee enveloped her. 2 minutes to spare, Alexa, Griggs sneered from behind the register, not looking up from his paperwork. "Glad you could make it." "Morning, Mr. Griggs," she said, tying the strings of her stained apron behind her back. "What's the special?" "Misery," he muttered. "The coffee machine in the back is busted, so you're running all your refills from the front. And table 4 is a VIP from corporate, so don't mess it up." Alexa nodded, her heart sinking. A busted machine meant triple the walking, and a VIP meant Mr. Griggs would be hovering over her shoulder, finding fault in every move. The morning rush hit like a tidal wave. She was a blur of motion, taking orders, refilling coffees, dodging the busboy, placating a customer whose eggs were too yellow. She moved with an efficiency that was both robotic and graceful, a thin, forced smile plastered on her face. She was invisible. She was just the hands that brought the food. Around 10:30 a.m., during a momentary lull, a new customer slipped into the corner booth. Booth 12. It was the bad booth, the one with the torn vinyl and the draft from the window. He was an older man, maybe in his late 60s, wearing clothes that seemed deliberately unremarkable. A worn knit sweater, faded jeans, and a pair of simple glasses. He looked normal. Tired even. He could have been a retired teacher or a local grandfather. Alexa grabbed a menu and a glass of water. "Welcome to the Midway. Coffee this morning?" The man looked up, and his eyes were surprisingly sharp. They were a clear, piercing blue, and they seemed to take in everything, the separating sole of her shoe, the raw skin on her hands from the harsh dish soap, the exhaustion she tried to hide. "Just coffee, black, and perhaps a menu," he said, his voice quiet and cultured. "You got it," Alexa smiled, pouring him a cup. As she turned away, she didn't see him pull out a small, leather-bound notebook. He clicked a pen and wrote down 2 words next to the date: "Genuine smile." For the next hour, he just sat there. He nursed his 1 cup of coffee, reading a newspaper, and seemingly oblivious to the diner's chaos. He was just another face in the crowd, a quiet observer in Alexa's daily storm. The relative peace shattered at 11:45 a.m., just as Alexa was gearing up for the lunch rush. The bell above the diner door jingled, but it sounded less like a welcome and more like an alarm. In walked a woman who did not belong in the Midway diner. She was draped in a cream-colored cashmere coat, though it was only 50 degrees outside. Her sunglasses were so large they obscured most of her face, and her hair was a helmet of perfect platinum blonde. The click-clack of her stiletto heels on the linoleum floor caused every head to turn. She was followed by 2 younger women who looked like stressed-out copies of her. "A table! Now!" she snapped at the teenage hostess, yanking off her sunglasses. "Right this way, ma'am." "No, not there," the woman interrupted, pointing a manicured finger at the large booth by the window, which was currently being wiped down. "There, and I want it dry." The woman and her entourage settled into the booth, and Alexa's stomach dropped. It was her section. "Oh, great," muttered Beth, the other senior waitress, as she passed Alexa. "That's Margaret Davenport. My cousin used to be her personal assistant. They call her the Dragon of Fifth Avenue. Good luck." Alexa took a deep breath, grabbed 3 menus and approached the table. "Good morning. Welcome to the Midway. My name is Alexa. I'll be taking care of—" "Water," Mrs. Davenport snapped, not even looking up from her phone. "Voss, sparkling, with 3 lime slices, not wedges, and they better not be dry. And you," she pointed at Alexa, "your apron is filthy. It's disgusting." Alexa looked down. A small splash of ketchup from an earlier order marred the beige fabric. "My apologies, ma'am. I'll get you a fresh one. And those waters right away." "See that you do." Alexa rushed to the back, her face burning. She scrubbed at the apron, but the stain wouldn't budge. Mr. Griggs watched her from his office doorway. "Problem at table 7, Alexa?" he asked, a slimy smile on his face. "No, Mr. Griggs, just a demanding customer." "That demanding customer is Margaret Davenport," Griggs said, his voice low. "Her husband is a big-shot developer. She could buy this entire block. Do not mess this up. Whatever she wants, she gets. I want a good review out of this." "Yes, Mr. Griggs," Alexa returned, balancing a tray with 3 tall glasses of sparkling water, each meticulously prepared with 3 perfect lime slices. It's about time, one of the younger women sniffed. Mrs. Davenport took a sip, her painted lips curling. It's tepid. Is your ice machine broken? And this glass has a smudge. Take it back. Alexa, her smile feeling like cracking porcelain, took the glass. Right away, Mum. She made the long trek back to the bar, got a new polished glass, filled it with ice from the very bottom of the bin, and returned. Is this better? It will have to do, Mrs. Davenport said. Now, I want the Cobb salad. But I don't want the bacon, the egg, or the blue cheese. The avocado must be fanned, not cubed. And I want the chicken grilled, not fried. But it can't have any of those grill marks on it. The dressing on the side, and hurry, we have a meeting. Alexa dutifully wrote down the impossible order. And for you, ladies? The two women ordered equally complex, modified dishes. Alexa recited the order back perfectly and fled to the kitchen, where she had to beg the line cook, Sal, not to quit on the spot. From the corner booth, the quiet man, Mr. Peterson, watched the entire exchange. He signaled Alexa. More coffee, sir? She asked, her voice trembling slightly from the stress. Please, he said. He had a kind, grandfatherly air, but his blue eyes were laser-focused. That woman at table 7, she's quite a character. Alexa forced a non-committal smile. We get all kinds, sir. It's my job to make everyone happy. Even when they're impossible? He asked gently. Especially then, Alexa said, topping off his cup. As she turned away, he pulled his notebook out again. Grace under pressure. Professionalism. Alexa delivered the salads to table 7. She had personally inspected each one. The avocado was fanned. The chicken was pale and unmarked. The dressing was on the side. Mrs. Davenport stared at her plate for a full 10 seconds. Then she picked up her fork and stabbed at a piece of lettuce. What is this? She hissed. It's your salad, Ma'am? This lettuce is wilted, she declared, loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear. It's brown. Are you trying to poison me? This is utterly inedible. The health department needs to shut this pigsty down. Alexa looked at the lettuce. It was crisp, green, and fresh. Ma'am, I assure you, that lettuce just came out of the walk-in. Are you calling me a liar? Mrs. Davenport shrieked. You, a common waitress, are calling me a liar. She picked up her glass of ice water and, with a flick of her wrist, tossed it directly onto the floor. Ice cubes and water splashed across the linoleum, narrowly missing Alexa's feet. Clean it up, she screamed. And get me your manager. You are the most incompetent server I have ever had the misfortune of encountering. The diner went silent. Mr. Griggs came running from his office, his face pale. The man in the corner booth slowly folded his newspaper. His gaze was no longer just observant. It was cold. The silence in the diner was thick and heavy. Everyone was staring. Alexa stood frozen, water seeping into the worn canvas of her shoes. Her face was blood red, but not from embarrassment. It was from a deep, simmering rage she couldn't afford to show. Mrs. Davenport! Ma'am, is there a problem? Mr. Griggs bustled over, wringing his hands and shooting Alexa a look of pure venom. A problem? This girl is the problem. Mrs. Davenport pointed at Alexa. She served me rotten food, argued with me, and then stood there while I slipped and spilled my water. She's a hazard. A gasp escaped Alexa's lips, a blatant, outrageous lie. Ma'am, that's not what... Alexa began, her voice shaking. Be quiet, Alexa, Griggs snapped. He turned back to Mrs. Davenport, his face a mask of oily apology. Mrs. Davenport, I am so sorry. Please, your entire meal, and for your associates, it's on the house. Of course. On the house? Do you think this is about money? Mrs. Davenport scoffed, though her eyes lit up at the word free. This is about principle. This is about competence, of which your staff has none. I have a mind to call my lawyers. My bag, she motioned to the very clearly fake Hermes Birkin bag sitting on the seat. It was splashed. Do you know what this costs? More than this entire hovel. Alexa, Griggs said, his voice dangerously low. Go get a mop, and then I want to see you in my office. Tears pricked Alexa's eyes, hot and angry. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tell Mrs. Davenport that she was a cruel, miserable woman. She wanted to tell Mr. Griggs he was a spineless coward. But she thought of Leo. She thought of the eviction notice. She clenched her jaw, nodded once, and walked to the utility closet. As she passed booth 12, the quiet man, Mr. Peterson, subtly cleared his throat. "Excuse me, Mum," he said, his voice surprisingly firm. Mrs. Davenport, Griggs, and Alexa all turned. "I am sitting right here," Mr. Peterson said, gesturing to his table. "I saw the entire thing. The lettuce was perfectly fine. And you threw that water on the floor yourself." Mrs. Davenport's face contorted in disbelief. "And just who in the hell do you think you are? Some senile old fool? Mind your own business before I have you thrown out as well." Mr. Griggs rounded on the man. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to keep your opinions to yourself. We have this under control." Mr. Peterson simply looked at him. He didn't flinch. He just held the manager's gaze until Griggs, unnerved, looked away. Then, the man turned his sharp blue eyes back to Alexa. He gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't pity. It was respect. Alexa retrieved the mop and bucket. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely wring out the mop head. She returned to table 7 and began cleaning up the water and ice, her movements stiff with humiliation. Mrs. Davenport and her friends watched, whispering and laughing behind their hands. As Alexa was on her hands and knees, wiping up the last of the water with a rag, she felt something brush against her apron pocket. She'd completely forgotten. Tucked inside was a small, folded napkin. During the 10:30 a.m. lull she had been sketching. It was her old habit, the one thing that kept her sane. She'd been doodling a new logo for the diner. The current Midway logo was a hideous, dated 1970s script. Her design was clean, modern and elegant, incorporating a stylized M that looked like a path leading forward. It was a stupid little dream. The napkin must have fallen out. She reached for it, but it had slid slightly under the edge of booth 12. Mr. Peterson leaned down, his movement surprisingly fluid for an older man. He picked up the napkin before she could. His eyes scanned the design. Alexa's face flushed again. "This is yours?" he asked quietly, his voice drowned out by Mrs. Davenport's continued complaints to Mr. Griggs. "It's just a stupid doodle," Alexa mumbled, mortified. "Just scribbling. Please, I need to—" He didn't hand it back. He looked from the sketch to her, and back to the sketch. A strange, calculating expression crossed his face. He folded the napkin once, and, very deliberately, slid it into the breast pocket of his worn sweater. "Sir, please, that's mine." "Alexa! Office! Now!" Griggs bellowed from across the room. Mrs. Davenport was finally gathering her things, her coat draped over her arm, a smug, victorious look on her face. "Go on," Mr. Peterson said, his voice an order, not a suggestion. "Handle your business." Alexa, confused, humiliated, and now robbed of her one private, hopeful sketch, felt a single tear escape and slide down her cheek. She wiped it away angrily. She dropped the mop back in the bucket with a clatter and marched toward Mr. Griggs's office, the weight of the world now heavy enough to crush her. The office was a cramped, windowless room in the back, smelling of stale cigarettes and fried onions. The walls were covered in supplier schedules, health code posters, and a yellowed Employee of the Month plaque from 2017. Mr. Griggs sat in his squeaky chair, his fingers steepled. He waited until Alexa was standing in front of the desk, dripping and shaking. "Close the door," he said. She did. The click of the latch echoed in the small space. "Alexa, Alexa, Alexa," he sighed, rubbing his temples. "What am I going to do with you? Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Mr. Griggs, I didn't do anything." She was lying. She threw the water on the floor. "I don't care." He cut her off, his voice suddenly cold. "I don't care if she sacrificed a goat on the table. She is a client. She is a high-profile, wealthy, important client. And you, Alexa, you are a waitress. Your job is to smile, nod, and bring the food. It is not your job to argue. It is not your job to make a scene. She made the scene. The man in booth 12. He saw it all. He said so. The old crackpot in the corner. He's nobody." Griggs slammed his hand on the desk, making Alexa jump. "He's been nursing one coffee for 2 hours. His check is $3.50. Her check, had you not ruined it, would have been $60, plus, I'm sure, a very generous tip for my attentive management." He stood up and walked around the desk, stopping too close to her. Alexa instinctively took a step back, hitting the wall. "You embarrassed me, Alexa," he whispered, his eyes filled with a petty, vindictive rage. "You embarrassed this diner, and you cost me money. Mr. Griggs, I need this job," she said, her voice cracking. "Please. My brother, he's sick. I'll work a triple. I'll work off the books. Please." She hated herself for begging. She hated him for making her. Begging. "That's pathetic," he sneered. "You know, I've been protecting you. I cover your shifts when you have to run to the hospital. I look the other way when you're 5 minutes late. I thought we had an understanding." He reached out and touched a strand of her hair. Alexa recoiled, her skin crawling. "Don't touch me." His face hardened. "Right. Well, that understanding is over. You're a liability, Alexa. You can't control your temper. You argue with high-value customers, and frankly, I'm tired of covering for you. Are you firing me?" The floor seemed to drop out from under her. "That's exactly what I'm doing." He pointed to the door. "Get your things from your locker. I'll have your final paycheck mailed to you, minus, of course, a cleaning fee for the apron." "A cleaning fee? You've got to be kidding me." "Get out, Alexa. You're trespassing." She stared at him, her mind blank with shock and white-hot fury. All the words she'd ever swallowed, all the "yes, sirs" and "my apologies" bubbled up in her throat. But she couldn't speak. If she spoke, she would scream, and if she screamed, she wasn't sure she would ever stop. She turned, fumbled with the doorknob, and burst out of the office. The diner was back to its normal hum. Beth, her co-worker, shot her a look of pity. Alexa ignored her. She walked to the staff lockers, her movements wooden. She pulled out her thin coat and her empty wallet. She didn't bother changing. She just ripped off the stained apron and threw it on the floor. She pushed through the diner's front doors and into the grey afternoon. It had started to drizzle, a cold, miserable rain that instantly soaked her thin uniform. She didn't have bus fare. She would have to walk the 3 miles home. As she turned the corner, she saw the man from booth 12, Mr. Peterson, standing at the bus stop. He saw her. Their eyes met. He looked concerned, but Alexa was too broken to care. She just lowered her head and kept walking, disappearing into the cold, indifferent city. The walk was a blur of misery. By the time she reached her apartment building, she was soaked to the bone and shivering. The rain had plastered her hair to her face. She climbed the 5 flights of stairs, each step an agony. Taped to her apartment door was a bright, neon pink piece of paper. It wasn't a final notice. It was a 72-hour eviction order. She tore it from the door, her hands shaking so violently she could barely read it. Failure to pay. Must vacate premises. She stumbled inside, locking the door behind her. "Leo," she called. Her voice was a dead croak. "In here," he coughed. "Alexa, you're home early. Did you bring the ice?" He stopped as she walked into the alcove. She was dripping, pale, and holding the pink paper. "Alexa." "What's wrong? What happened?" Alexa looked at her sick brother, at the blinking red light on the empty pharmacy bottle, at the eviction notice in her hand. The weight was too much. The carefully constructed dam she had built inside herself finally broke. She slid down the wall, an animal sound of pure despair tearing from her throat, and for the first time in years, Alexa put her head in her hands and wept. Alexa didn't sleep. She and Leo spent the night in a state of quiet panic. They had no family to call, no friends with a spare room. They were, in the most terrifying sense of the word, alone. Alexa spent hours on her laptop, applying for any job that was hiring immediately. Night shift stocking, fast food, call centers, anything that might provide a paycheck before they were thrown to the curb. Her applications vanished into the digital void. By 10 a.m. the next morning, she was a hollow shell, running on pure, uncut fear. Leo's breathing was shallow, a wheeze whistling in his chest. He needed his refill. A sharp, authoritative knock echoed through the apartment. Alexa and Leo froze. "It's him," Leo whispered, his eyes wide. "The landlord. He's here to kick us out." "Shh," Alexa said, grabbing a fireplace poker she kept for safety. "Just stay quiet." The knock came again, louder this time. "Rap, rap, rap." "Miss Alexa Ryland?" a woman's voice called. It was crisp, clear, and professional. Not the landlord. Alexa crept to the door, poker raised, and looked through the peephole. Her blood ran cold. On her landing, in the grime-caked hallway of her tenement building, stood a woman in an impeccably tailored black suit. She held a sleek leather briefcase. Behind her stood a man built like a refrigerator, also in a suit, with an earpiece. Parked at the curb 5 stories below, Alexa could just see the gleaming black hood of a car so expensive it looked alien on their street. A Maybach S-Class. This was not a job offer. This was trouble. This was Mrs. Davenport's lawyers. "Who are you?" Alexa called through the door, her voice trembling. "My name is Ms. Shaw," the woman replied, her voice perfectly calm. "I am the executive administrator for Mr. Alexander Cole. He requests your presence. It is a matter of some urgency." Alexa's mind raced. Alexander Cole? The name was familiar. She'd seen it in the business section of the papers she used to wrap glasses in. Cole Industries, the massive, shadowy conglomerate that was buying up half the city. What did a man like that want with her? I think you have the wrong person," Alexa said. "I'm nobody. I don't know any Mr. Cole." "He was at the Midway Diner yesterday, Miss Ryland," Ms. Shaw said, her voice losing a fraction of its patience. "He requests a meeting. You will be compensated for your time." The diner? Alexa's mind flashed through the customers, the obnoxious teens, the tired truckers, the corporate VIP, and the quiet old man. Mr. Peterson. Was he Alexander Cole? No, it was impossible. The man was wearing a $20 sweater. Is this about the woman? Mrs. Davenport? Alexa asked, her knuckles white on the poker. Because I'm telling you, I didn't do anything, and I don't have any money to pay for her stupid bag, so you can just... This has nothing to do with Margaret Davenport, Ms. Shaw interrupted, a note of disdain in her voice. Mr. Cole's time is precise. We have an appointment. He is expecting you. Now. Leo coughed from the alcove, a desperate hacking sound. Alexa was trapped. If these people were powerful enough to track her down to her unregistered apartment, they were powerful enough to make her life even worse. But what if it wasn't a threat? What if it was... Help! She lowered the poker. I can't leave my brother. He's sick. There was a pause. Ms. Shaw spoke to her bodyguard, her voice too low to hear. That has been accounted for, Ms. Shaw called. Please open the door. Hesitantly, Alexa unfastened the deadbolt and the chain. She opened the door a crack. Ms. Shaw was even more formidable in person. She was tall, with her hair in a severe bun, and she looked at Alexa's squalid apartment with utter neutrality. Miss Ryland, she said, handing Alexa a thick, cream-colored envelope. This is a retainer for your time today. Cash, $2,000. Alexa's hands fumbled as she took it. She opened the flap. Inside were 20 crisp $100 bills, more money than she had seen in one place in her life, enough to pay the pharmacy, enough to stop the eviction. And as for your brother, Ms. Shaw continued, we have a private paramedic team downstairs. They will stay with him, under the supervision of your neighbor, Mrs. Petroff, I believe, until you return. They have a portable oxygen concentrator and his specific medication from the specialist pharmacy. He will be perfectly safe. Alexa was speechless. They knew about Leo. They knew about Mrs. Petroff. They knew about his medication. This wasn't a lawsuit. This was a military operation. What does he want from me? Alexa whispered. He wants to talk, Ms. Shaw said. She offered a small, human smile. And I believe to return something of yours. She gestured down the hall. The car is waiting. Shall we? Alexa looked back at Leo. He nodded, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. Alexa tucked the envelope into her pocket. She put on her damp, worn-out coat. She took a deep breath, stepped out of her apartment, and walked toward the gleaming black car that would take her to a life she couldn't possibly imagine. The ride was silent and surreal. The Maybach moved through the city streets with the silent, predatory grace of a shark. Alexa sat on the plush leather, acutely aware of her frayed jeans and the faint smell of diner grease that still clung to her. Ms. Shaw sat opposite her, typing silently on a laptop. They didn't go to a stuffy law office. They drove to the newest, most blindingly tall skyscraper in the financial district, Coal Industries Tower. The lobby was a cathedral of glass and black marble. People in $1,000 suits moved with hushed, frantic energy. Ms. Shaw led Alexa to a private, high-speed elevator. There was only one button, PH. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse office. Alexa's jaw dropped. The room was bigger than her entire apartment building. 3 walls were pure glass, offering a godlike view of the city and the harbor below. The furniture was minimal, expensive, and artful. Behind a massive desk of dark, polished wood sat a man. He was not Mr. Peterson. This man was in his early 40s, with sharp features, dark hair swept back, and an aura of such intense power that Alexa felt her knees weaken. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than her college tuition. He looked up from a screen, and his eyes were cold and analytical. This must be Alexander Cole. She had been a fool. "Mr. Cole?" she stammered. The man raised an eyebrow. "I am Robert Langley, the COO of Coal Industries." He looked her up and down, his expression one of mild confusion. "You must be Miss Ryland. He's waiting for you." He gestured to a set of double doors on the side. Go on in. He doesn't like to be kept waiting." Numbly, Alexa walked to the doors and pushed one open. This room was different. It was smaller, though still vast. It was a private study, lined with books. A fire crackled in a modern fireplace, and standing in front of it, holding a steaming mug, was Mr. Peterson, Alexa breathed. He turned. He was wearing the same kind clothes as yesterday, a simple cashmere sweater, clean trousers, but they no longer looked worn. They looked comfortable. He smiled, and his blue eyes were warm. Alexa, please come in. Sit down. Can I get you some coffee? It's much better than the swill at the Midway, I promise. You're Alexander Cole, Alexa said, remaining rooted to the spot. I am, he said. Please, sit. You're not in trouble. But the clothes, the diner. I thought you were just an old man in a corner booth. He chuckled, a dry, pleasant sound. That's the point. My name is Alexander Cole. Mr. Peterson is a name I borrow from my high school English teacher when I want to be invisible. I find it's the only way to see the world as it really is. Why? Alexa asked, finally sinking into a soft leather chair. Why were you there? I'll be direct, Alexa. My holding company, Aperture, acquired the entire Midway Diner national chain 3 weeks ago. It was a distressed asset purchase. You own the Midway? I do, and it's a mess. The management is rotten, the brand is dead, and the service is, well, you know. I was doing field research. I've visited 12 locations in the last week, unannounced. I sit, I watch, I listen. I find out who's stealing from the register and who's just trying to survive. He sat down opposite her. I watched you for 2 hours, Alexa. I saw you handle that awful VIP from corporate, who, by the way, has already been reassigned. I saw you deal with the broken coffee machine. I saw you take orders, clear tables, and handle every customer with a patience I can only describe as saintly. I was just doing my job, Alexa murmured. No, Alexander said, his voice firm. You were doing more than your job. And then Mrs. Davenport came in. So you saw, I saw everything. I saw her lie. I saw her cruelty. And I saw your manager, Mr. Griggs, completely and utterly fail you. I saw him side with a bully because he thought she had money, and dismiss you because he thought you had none. He leaned forward. But most importantly, Alexa, I saw you. I saw you stand there, humiliated, and you didn't curse. You didn't cry. Not until the end. You maintained your dignity. You went to get the mop. You did the hard, humiliating thing because you had to. That's character. That's grit. I can't teach that. I can only find it. And then, he said, I found this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded napkin. He spread it on the table between them. Her logo sketch. I started my first company, a small software firm, with a logo I sketched on a bar napkin, he said. I'm a big believer in napkin sketches. This is very good. It's clean. It's hopeful. It's everything the Midway brand is not. Alexa stared at her doodle, now sitting on a billion-dollar desk. After you left, Alexander continued, I made a few calls. I had my team find out who you were. They were thorough. They found out about Leo. They found out about the design school. They found out about the eviction notice. So the money. Ms. Shaw. That's just to handle the immediate crisis, Alexa. Consider it a signing bonus. A what? I fired Mr. Griggs at 5:00 p.m. yesterday, personally, and I'm afraid I have no intention of letting you go back to waitressing. I'm rebranding the entire 400 diner chain. It's a 2-year, $50 million project. I'm gutting it from the top down. New name, new look, new menu. And I want the person who designed this logo, he tapped the napkin, to be on the design team. Alexa felt the room tilt, the sound rushing out of it, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in her ears. The words Mr. Cole spoke seemed to hang in the air, nonsensical and bright, like letters from a foreign alphabet. "Mr. Cole, I don't understand," she finally stammered, the words thick in her throat. Her mind was frantically trying to process the number. 90,000. It wasn't a salary. It was a joke. It was a number from a game show. I'm a waitress. I was until yesterday. I'm a college dropout. I haven't used design software in 3 years. I'm not qualified for any of this." She felt a hysterical laugh bubble up, a sound of pure disbelief. "You can't be serious. I'm the person you saw on her knees, mopping up ice water." Alexander Cole didn't laugh. He simply watched her with those unnervingly patient blue eyes. "Alexa, I can find 1,000 people with a design degree by lunchtime. I can find 2,000 who are qualified on paper. I'm not interested in that." He stood up, not to tower over her, but to walk to the massive window, his hands clasped behind his back. "I'm offering you this job because of what I saw before you were on your knees. I saw you handle a dozen complex orders without a single error. I saw you comfort a crying child at table 2, while simultaneously taking an order from table 3. I saw you absorb the verbal abuse of that woman, and you did not break. You did not even crack. You just endured." He turned back to her. "And after all that, after Griggs fired you, after you lost your entire livelihood in an instant, you know what you did? You threw your apron on the floor. It was a small act, but it was an act of defiance. It was the act of someone who was beaten, but not broken." He walked back to the desk and picked up the napkin. "This logo," he said, "is good. It's more than good. It's hopeful. It's clever. But I'm not hiring the logo, Alexa. I'm hiring the person who drew it while the world was falling apart around her. I'm hiring the grit it took for you to even dream of something better in the middle of that hell." "But the skills," she whispered, her hands twisting in her lap. "I'll be lost. I can teach you the software, Alexa. I can teach you corporate branding. I can send you to every class you need. That's the easy part." He leaned forward, his voice softening. "I can't teach you to have a good heart. I can't teach you to be brave when you're terrified. I can't teach you to have character. You already have that. That's what I'm investing in. The rest is just training." The yes was on her tongue, but it was caught, tangled in years of fear and failure. $90,000 was a dream, but it was the next thing he said that shattered her completely. "And," he continued, as if adding an afterthought, "it comes with the full executive benefits package. That includes our top-tier corporate health insurance. It covers 100% of all costs for pre-existing and chronic conditions. No co-pays, no deductibles. Your brother's care, Alexa. His medications, his specialists, his hospital stays, it will all be taken care of, starting today." That was it. That was the key that unlocked everything. The 90,000 was an abstract, impossible number. But no co-pays, medication taken care of. Those words were a physical release. Alexa felt the tension she had carried for 5 years, a steel band of anxiety that had wrapped around her chest and squeezed tighter and tighter, day after day. Suddenly snap. The tears that she had refused to shed in the diner, the tears of humiliation and rage, finally came. But these were different tears. These were the tears of a dam breaking, the sound of a mountain of debt and suffocating fear turning to dust. She put her head in her hands, and a sob, a raw, ragged sound of pure, unadulterated relief, tore from her chest. She wept for the eviction notice. She wept for the missed prescription refills. She wept for the years of her youth she had sacrificed. Alexander Cole said nothing. He simply pushed a box of tissues across the desk and waited. After a long minute, she looked up, her face blotchy, her eyes red, but her spine straight for the first time in memory. You would really do that? For Leo? I'm not doing it for Leo, he said gently. I'm doing it for my new employee. A company takes care of its people. It's that simple. She took a deep, shuddering breath. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said, a small smile touching his lips. Say you'll come and help me fix this broken company. Say you'll take the chance you finally deserve. Yes, she said, the word coming out on a rush of air. Yes, thank you. 1,000 times. Yes. Good. He smiled, and just like that, he was all business again. Ms. Shaw will handle the details. She's already secured a new lease for you, a 2-bedroom apartment in a good building, closer to the hospital and to this office. She'll arrange for a moving service. Alexa's mind reeled. You can't build a new life if you're living in your old one, he said simply. Ms. Shaw will also coordinate with Leo's new pediatric specialist team at the city's best hospital. His transfer is scheduled for this afternoon. You can take the rest of the week to get moved and get him settled. You start on Monday. 9:00 a.m. Robert Langley, my COO, will be your initial supervisor. He stood, signaling the end of the meeting. Alexa stood with him, her legs feeling like jelly. Oh, he said, as she reached the door. One last piece of business? Sir? Mrs. Margaret Davenport, he said, his eyes turning to ice. Her husband's development company has been trying to get a rather large loan from my bank for a new high-rise project. I had Mr. Langley personally review their portfolio this morning. It's a very weak, very risky proposal. Full of bad debt and inflated projections. I don't think it's going to be approved. He gave her a small, conspiratorial wink. Funny how these things work out. Alexa walked out of the office, but she felt like she was floating. Ms. Shaw met her by the elevator, a small, human smile on her face. Ready, Miss Ryland? We have a busy day. The next 6 months were a blur. The first week was the strangest. Alexa woke up not to a shrieking alarm, but to the soft light of the sun, filling a clean, quiet bedroom. She drank coffee, not from a cracked, stained mug, but from a new white one. The apartment was safe. The silence was wonderful. Her first day at Cole Industries was terrifying. She wore a simple, new dress Ms. Shaw had helped her purchase, and she felt like a child playing dress-up. But Robert Langley was surprisingly kind, if intense. He didn't coddle her. He gave her a stack of books on brand theory and a list of software tutorials. Mr. Cole expects results, he said, not unkindly. So, let's get to work. She worked harder than she ever had at the diner. She stayed late, practicing, reading, and sketching. She learned the language of a world she never knew existed. Market saturation, brand identity, demographic focus. And with every passing week, she felt a part of her old self, the tired, invisible, hopeless part, slough away. She saw Leo flourish. With his new medications and specialist care, the color returned to his cheeks. His cough faded. He enrolled in an online school, his bright, curious mind finally free to learn. Now, 6 months to the day after she had mopped ice water off a filthy floor, Alexa stood at the front of a gleaming boardroom. The walls were glass, offering the same stunning view as Alexander's office. She was wearing a sharp, tailored blue suit, her hair in a neat, professional knot. She felt calm. She felt ready. At the long table sat Robert Langley, Ms. Shaw, and at the head of it, Alexander Cole. "Good morning," Alexa said, her voice clear and strong, echoing slightly in the large room. There was no tremor in it. "Today I am excited to present the final branding package for our new flagship restaurant chain." She clicked the remote. On the massive screen behind her, a logo appeared. It was a stylized C and G, beautifully integrated to look like a compass rose. It was a direct, beautiful evolution of the sketch she had drawn on that cheap diner napkin. "We are moving away from the Midway," she announced. "The name is dated and carries too many negative associations. We are introducing the Compass Grill." She saw Alexander nod slightly. "Our new brand identity," she continued, "speaks to quality, reliability, and a sense of direction. It's a place you can count on, whether you're starting your day or ending a long journey." She clicked again. A new slide showed the uniform designs. "We are replacing the cheap beige polyester with practical, stylish, and comfortable attire. Dark blue denim aprons, clean white shirts, and a focus on durability and dignity. Our staff is our front line. They deserve to feel proud of how they look." As she said it, she felt a flash of memory, the feel of Mr. Griggs's hand on her hair, the sting of Mrs. Davenport's words. She channeled it, not as anger, but as fuel. She was fixing this. She was making it right. She walked them through the new color palettes, the new menus that focused on fresh, locally sourced food, and the new store layouts that were bright and welcoming. When she finished, the room was silent for a beat. Robert Langley, the man who had terrified her on day one, was beaming. He started to clap, and Ms. Shaw joined him, a rare, genuine smile on her face. Alexa looked to the head of the table. Alexander Cole wasn't clapping. He was simply looking at her, not as a billionaire looking at a project, but as a mentor looking at his protégé. He nodded once, slow and deliberate. It was the same nod of respect he had given her in that dingy diner booth. It meant more than all the applause in the world. That evening, Alexa walked into her apartment. It was quiet, but it was a warm, lived-in quiet. The smell of garlic and herbs hung in the air. "Leo," she called, slipping off her heels. "In here," he shouted from the kitchen. She walked in. Leo, looking healthy and bright, was standing at the stove, stirring a pot of pasta sauce. His breathing was easy and unlabored. The nebulizer machine was long gone, packed away in the back of a closet, like a relic from a forgotten war. "How was the big, scary presentation?" he asked, grinning. "We nailed it," Alexa said, leaning against the counter, a smile spreading across her face. "They loved it. Langley actually high-fived me. It was weird." "I knew they would," he said, turning to her. "You're a genius." "I'm not a genius, Leo," she said, her smile softening. I was lucky." "No, it wasn't luck," Leo said, his expression turning serious. He put the spoon down. "I talked to Mr. Cole, you know. He came by the hospital that first week, just to check on me. I asked him why he did all this for us. For you." "What did he say?" Alexa asked, her heart suddenly full. "He said that money and skills are easy to find. He said he hired you because you were kind when you had every reason not to be. He said you brought an old man a cup of coffee with a real smile right after a customer had screamed at you. He said you had dignity. That's why he hired you." Alexa looked out the window at the city lights, so different from the view in her old apartment. She thought back to that horrible, wonderful day. She thought of Mrs. Davenport, of Mr. Griggs, of the cold rain. And she thought of the quiet man in the corner, the man who had been watching, the man who saw her when she was invisible. She had been a waitress, drowning in a life she didn't choose. Now, she was a designer, an executive, a sister who could finally breathe. And it wasn't just a billionaire who changed her life. It was her own choice, in her darkest moment, to hold on to her dignity, to protect her character, and to offer one small, genuine act of kindness. What an incredible story. It's a powerful reminder that we never truly know who is watching. Alexa thought she was just serving coffee in a rundown diner, but her kindness, her dignity, and her hidden talent were her resume. She was being tested, and she passed with flying colors. It shows that true character isn't how you treat the rich and powerful, like Mrs. Davenport. It's how you treat the nobodies in the corner, who might just turn out to be the somebody who can change everything. What did you think of Alexa's story? What would you have done if you were in her shoes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a like and share it with someone who needs a little bit of hope. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another one of our dramatic, real-life stories.